Hi everyone, Curtis Krishner here for Beyond the 90. Wanted to make a quick commentary on the player movement we're seeing in the USL Championship in the early stages of this offseason. Now, obviously, everything going on in that division in terms of players, player contracts, personnel moves is going on with a lot of doubt about the future of the collective bargaining agreement with the USL Players Union, Players Association. That collective bargaining agreement, the current collective bargaining agreement, expires December 31st. My understanding is there has been very little progress towards a new agreement. They are months behind, both from the USL HQ perspective and from the Players Union perspective, months behind where they would have liked to have been in these conversations. So, as a result of that, we are in a position where clubs are not quite sure what the base compensation is going to look like in terms of the floor for players, but they do have a sense of what the top is going to get paid. So what we are seeing is fewer players retained than by some of the top teams in the league than we've seen in the past, and we are looking at a situation where they have we are seeing lots and lots of player movement at the top end. Russell Cicerone signing with Tampa Bay. Wilmer Cabrera Jr. signing with Charleston Battery. Arturo Rodriguez signing with Sac Republic. We're seeing the movement of those kind of big pieces. We're seeing less movement in terms of players that would be near the bottom of the pay scale. And I think there's a wait-and-see attitude towards those players for obvious reasons due to the CBA and due to where we're not sure where the CBA will end up. We don't know what the minimum compensation is going to be. Now, in terms of the broader perspectives here, you have some clubs that have players that they have retained that are under contract that are trying to actively move those players. I don't want to get too deep into it. I'm not trying to break news here, and I'm not trying to break the confidence I have with some people in the league in personnel positions. But there are a few veteran players who have been retained that are higher salary players that at the moment look like they're staying with the club they played for last season, who may be somewhere else come the start of the season in late February, early March, because there is a desire to kind of dump some of those players once you know the floor for the players further down the salary structure, and then you're going to want to free up some money, potentially assuming the floor is higher than it currently is. And I don't think there's any question the minimum compensation will go up. The question is, how far does it go up? Does it meet the level of the USL Super League, where the floor for minimum compensation for each player is in the range of about $40,000 a year? Now, when we talk about compensation, we're talking about their wages, we're talking about potentially healthcare costs, and we're talking about potentially housing costs. Okay, it's not just a straight you get paid. Let's say it's $40,000 and it's on a 10-month deal. You're getting paid $4,000 a month. It's not that simple. For some clubs, it is. For other clubs, it isn't. They have the option under the CBA in the on the men's side, both the Championship and League One, and then the women's side. There is not a papered CBA, but there is a formal handshake agreement between the Players Association and the 9 clubs that currently field Super League sides. And that handshake agreement has given players in the USL Super League, which we do need to remind our listeners, our viewers, our readers, is a sanctioned Division 1 women's league. No, it's not at NWSL's level, but it is a sanctioned Division 1 league, which puts it on par in terms of professional requirements with a sanctioned Division 2 men's league, which is the USL Championship. So one of the things I understand is that the Players Association wants that compensation in the USL Championship too. reflect what we see on the women's side in the USL Super League. So with that in mind, clubs are hedging on a lot of things. Now let's go through some of what we've seen. Charleston has let go of a number of players. Apparently let go of a number of players, but I understand they're negotiating still with one or two of them, veteran players. Same thing with Sacramento. You saw the list of, I'm sure everyone saw the list of players that Sacramento has let go of. Some of those players may be back with the Republic next year. There's negotiations going on. Matt Real, interesting signing for Hartford, a player that Brendan Burke is very familiar with. And I think that is going to be a signing that helps Hartford. We've seen some retentions. Bradley Sample retained by Pittsburgh. Eric Dick goes to Indy 11, and that's a big time signing for Indy 11. And Indy 11 has never had any shortage of spending on players. Now the question is, does this particular spending match their ambition, or is it just going to be pointless spending? Because one of the concerns I've always had about Indy 11 is, for all the things, and you've heard me say some very, very favorable things about Ursal Ozemir, the owner of Indy 11, in terms of his investment in the club and his investment in local soccer in Indiana. He is also the most meddling owner in this league in terms of personnel decisions. And he makes personnel decisions. It's very hard to be the coach in Indianapolis, as former coaches Martin Rennie and Mark Lowry could tell you in an unguarded moment. And I'm sure Sean McCauley has a similar take if he's ever in an unguarded moment. But you just kind of roll with it. So I'm looking here, trying to see what other signings have really stood out for me. Cicerone, we mentioned, for Tampa Bay. I think that is a really, really big time signing in terms of where they want to go. Luke Hankinson is back with San Antonio FC. So that's, I think, a very, very good re-signing there for San Antonio. Let's see, what other signings have really stood out to this point. I think Tampa Bay has done an interesting job of bringing in players that probably do some good for them. Goalkeeper, they've upgraded tremendously at the goalkeeper position, and that alone might put them in the playoffs next season. That goalkeeper upgrade in terms of what they've done there. And then Leland Archer is a player with a lot of experience in the USL Championship. Not necessarily my favorite player, but I think a player that is someone that I think is really, really helpful. Now, Jamali Wade, of course, is the goalkeeper I'm talking about for Tampa Bay. And this is something also that we need to be looking to in this coming USL Championship season. The World Cup is this summer. Now, that's generally not affected USL or NASL clubs in the past. Now, I was working as the NASL PR director when we had Jeremy Christie playing for the Rowdies, or FC Tampa Bay, as we had to call it at the time, due to a trademark dispute. And we had Jeremy Christie, right? New Zealand international, gets called in for the World Cup for New Zealand, 2010 World Cup in South Africa. There hasn't been a D2 player from the U.S. in a World Cup since then. There will be this summer. There are going to be several. Jamali Wade, I believe, will be one of them if Jamaica does qualify for the World Cup. We know there are at least 3 or 4 guys on Haiti that are going to be part of this this setup, and they have qualified for the World Cup. We had talk of potentially players from Curacao entering the USL Championship. Now that they've qualified for the World Cup, and they've had a bunch of guys in the shop window, and we've already seen a signing from Miami FC of a very, very prominent member of that side, Eloy Room, who has a pretty extensive playing pedigree in Europe. So you're going to see for the first time the World Cup impact USL. It'll impact USL even more if Jamaica qualifies, because there have been always. I mean, this is one thing that USL really should have pounded its chest about, was in 2015 and 2017 when Jamaica reached the finals of the Gold Cup. Both those years, there were tons of USL guys in the team. In fact, it was Pittsburgh Riverhounds goalkeeper at the time. I'm blanking out on his name. That was so pivotal in defeating the United States in the semifinals of that 2015 CONCACAF Gold Cup. So, yeah, a lot going on. I think the CBA is a big part of why you're not maybe seeing as much player movement as you'd expect. You're not seeing that many clubs announce signings yet. I think there is a board at every club. I've talked to, what do we have, 25 clubs in the USL Championship? I've talked not to half of them, but to a significant number of them, more than a quarter of them in the last few weeks. And they all have a board, but they're all monitoring the CBA negotiations also. And they're making some moves now. They're making some signings now, but they're holding off on others for that reason.